Welcome to the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where you get an inside look of the lives of the men and women who have made careers working in the trades. This episode is of the wise and tenacious Miss Shannon Tymosko, who by the time this episode releases will be a second-year apprentice, electrical apprentice, up in Canada. She's going to share about her career path, which is a very interesting, winding road, but it all seems to be coming together for her. She also so eloquently describes or makes a distinction about what dirty work really is. And there's some serious talk around retaining apprentices, busting the myth about young people don't want to enter the trades. She's got a very interesting thought about that. And here we go. Are you okay with us just jumping into it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Shannon, I'm going to attempt to pronounce your last name. And please don't slap me. It's Shannon Tymosko?
Very good. Tymosko, yep.
I guess my first question, Shannon, is there anything top of mind that you want to talk about or ask me with regard to this interview?
I don't have anything off the top of my mind. I'm sure I may have questions that come up along the way, but I think our mindsets are on the same page about advocating for the trades and making, a voice somewhere, because I don't feel like there's enough places to go and avenues to go down to try to find information about the trades. So people like yourself and hopefully me one day spread the word and be able to make a difference. So I think that's what we're both here to kind of do.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So with that, I'm suspicious maybe when you were in middle school, maybe high school, as far back as you can remember, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up back then?
I think that's changed over the years. And, if you ask my parents, they'll tell you the very first thing I wanted to be when I was still a baby was a baby doctor, probably my little dolls, walking around. But wasn't something I think I was ever really serious about. I think, at different times in our life, we have different interests or, just different toys. And that time of my life that, made me feel that way. I didn't really have any draw towards anything as I got towards the end of high school, when you're almost forced to make that decision. And, one of the things that saddens me is that you have to make one of those toughest decisions that you've ever made in your life about what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're not even really an adult yet. The very first adult decision you have to make is about, well, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? But your parents have been kind of not controlling, but they've been an influence for all those years. So how do you even know what you like, who you are, without exploring a few years? And so at the end of high school, I was good at numbers, and I'd taken all of the business courses that there were to be taken at my high school at the time. And I had an aunt and uncle who were both chartered accountants here in Canada. And, well, good with numbers, accountants make good money. Well, what do? I go try to be an accountant. I applied for universities, didn't have the university marks to get into any university. I did get into a college here in Canada, did 1 year of college of accounting and realized that maybe my personality wasn't fun for me. I didn't enjoy it. And it was maybe the first time that I did something that I realized, you don't enjoy this. It's still early on in life. Try something new. And at that time, I had Paulette. She's one of those strong women influences in my life. And she worked in a school board with special needs kids. And I'd spent a few, I tried it. I enjoyed that experience. And so I thought, maybe child and youth work is for me. And so after my 1 year of college, I switched to child and youth work, which is a 3-year diploma, and finished that. And so I didn't really necessarily know what I wanted to do. I guess I had things that were strengths, and people in my life. And I think that's often what happens is you don't really know all the career choices that are available at 18. And so you only have what you're exposed to. And so you have your parents, what did they do? You have your family members, what did they do? And often, you rely on the school to provide you more exposure about, what you could, and it doesn't necessarily happen. And
Right.
so I did follow almost a family, I follow the people in my life,
Of course.
and not necessarily what my passions were. And I didn't even know what my passions were at the time, because again, 18 years of age, you're still trying to figure out yourself, and
Yep.
your adult brain hasn't even completely formed. It's a lot to decide so early on in life.
Absolutely. So, can you describe what it was like for you and the dynamics with your family when you decided that accounting was not the path?
They were really supportive. I
Nice.
decided about halfway through the first year that it
Hmm.
wasn't for me. But they encouraged me to finish the year.
Okay.
My family's always kind of been, they're really encouraging, and but they're also rational and reasonable people. Just because you don't want to do this doesn't mean you didn't commit to this for the year. And I think you should see it through, because there's still lessons to be learned on that.
Uh,
And and my mom used to say to me all the time, when I was a kid, he'd come home and I disliked my teacher. Meh, 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 I don't like so and so.
yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that my mom would say to me is, Shannon, you're going to have a boss that you don't like one day. You are
Yeah.
going to have a boss, and
Bunches of them.
you don't get to pick your boss. So you only have to deal with this teacher for a handful of months. This is your time to practice and realize how to work with people you don't like. And so they've always been that. My mom's been very like kind of reasonable, rational kind of person. And so they were supportive of it. They wanted me to see at least the semester through, which I think is, I already invest. Why not? I think, I committed to it. Why not challenge myself? And then the next year I did transfer into child and youth work. I guess the one thing I didn't really realize when I transferred is at that point, accounting is more of an avenue that you hope to make more money. I think people think accountant, think they're going to make lots of money. And one of the things I didn't know then, or I didn't really realize was going to be such a challenge, was I went to a college here in Canada. If you want to become a chartered accountant, somebody who makes serious money, you need to be accepted to like UFT, University of Toronto, Schulich Business School for accounting, and anybody else who kind of goes to college or for those accounting courses, most likely, unless you decide to commit yourself to another 4 years of university and more school, are likely going to come away with just like an entry level admin kind of job.
Mm.
And so taking that accounting route, going the college way, I didn't really realize how long of a route that would have been to make good money, even though accounting does sound like a good, secure job.
Sure.
And then child and youth work, again, that's a different avenue. And I signed up, as a bleeding heart to help people, and didn't realize that my 3-year diploma would then get me a minimum wage job.
Mm.
Back to that whole, financial struggle as somebody who's going to school and trying to better themselves. Still ending up with that minimum wage job is quite frustrating.
That's not in the commercials, is it?
No. And the thing is, when our parents were in school, it was something to have a high school diploma, and to go to university was something to have. Not everybody had university degrees. In 2020, everybody is, kind of sent down the path to the university, college, some sort of post-secondary decision, which means now everybody has it. It's if you want something to stand out amongst the rest, you now need to start doing those master degrees. Now you need to start doing posts, like,
Yep.
a decade worth of schooling, just to stand out amongst the rest because everybody has one. And so these aren't necessarily things that they talk about in high school, sorry. And would I maybe even understood it at 18 years of age? Probably not, because, at 32 years of age, I have years of experience, years of frustration with debt, years of just different things that,
Life.
life has made me, more aware of what kind of long-term decisions those things can be. So
We learn, right? We learn through trial and error. We learn through mistakes. We test the water. I think that is not marketed enough, right? When we're talking to kids and talking about career choices, it's pick one, and
right.
it's a direct path to financial freedom. But not exactly, right?
Not
Uh,
exactly.
Question: I want to hear about Paulette? You mentioned she was a strong influence in your life and
She's
helped you.
actually someone who's she's been around in my life for a long time. She actually is an ex-boyfriend's stepmother of mine, and
Okay.
who's just always kind of been there. We might not be in communication all the time, but when I pick up the phone and we do chat, it's like yesterday that I just got off the phone with her, and so she's always been really supportive of me. She is one of those people that did give me that kind of passion for people. She gave me the opportunity to realize that working in the school board with her and just volunteering some of those times, it was rewarding to see, the change that people can make, rewarding to see that different kind of stuff. And so it is, because of Paulette that I did kind of start that avenue. You never know where your life is going to take you,
Right,
but
right.
she most certainly was someone who started that. And I'm very grateful for her. And
It's an important thing. In my head, she would qualify as a mentor. It sounds like there's a very deep relationship between the two of you, which is phenomenal, and it's something to treasure, right? I'm sure you cherish it. But mentorship, how many folks don't even understand what to look for in a mentor, or for the mentors don't know how to mentor, right? Yeah. It's a powerful role to play in somebody's life, and also a high value thing to go and acquire. Find some mentors out there in the world. So besides Miss Paulette, what else attracted you to education? Would you say what triggered your bleeding heart?
I think a lot of people in that industry, not all, I'm not everybody, but a lot of people in the social service kind of industry normally have struggled with something themselves that makes them want to help others so that they don't experience the same. So I was one of those kids. My boyfriend Paul would say that, I had a glow up. So when I was one of those little kids at school that, was a little chunky thing and picked on, and not necessarily I would go back and redo my childhood, going through it myself, and wanted to, make change in others. And what I really realized about the child and youth work, the 3-year diploma is, and I'm really grateful that I did it, although I'm not actively in the career, or the field, sorry. Child and youth work, the three-year diploma was, counseling for me for 3 years. What a nice way to learn about yourself, discover yourself, evaluate everybody in your life, including yourself. And so I'm very grateful for those 3 years of schooling, because it did, I think, kind of set me up on a the path of wanting to help people and wanting to better myself. I really think growth and change is really important. I don't want to ever be that person who's just kind of that grumpy old person who can't change anymore. They're stuck in their ways. I really think that everybody has value, and if you open your ears and listen, there's something to be learned from everybody. And so child and youth work really, set me up kind of on this avenue to want to help others. But probably I'm very much, everything happens for a reason kind of person. And it probably has taken me my entire life, up to this point to really realize that, because when you're in those struggles and those stresses, you don't necessarily see what the potential can be. It might not be until years later. And so when it comes to my future ambitions of wanting to be an ambassador for young people, or, even myself, I'm not necessarily young, but ambassador for people just who want to maybe try something new in the trades, that child and youth work really gave me the foundation and the base to do that. And so, like, everything happens for a reason. Did I take that? That combined with my trades really has set me up to be what I hope to be, a really well-rounded ambassador and advocate for people. And so I'm very grateful for that time in my life, even though probably at that time when there was times when I felt not the same. I felt maybe a little regret,
Sure. So it sounds like you didn't stay in that area of work, but you learned a lot that you're carrying forward and taking with you.
And after, the schooling, I did work in the field a little bit. I proceeded to work, one of my placements through college was at a youth adult shelter here in Etobicoke. They were 16 to 24 years of age. They could have been there because of any kind of walks of life. Sometimes they're refugees, sometimes they've struggled from maybe some, family issues, whatever that might be. Yep. We all have families.
Oh yeah.
Whatever might have brought them there. And so coming from a small town in Canada called Keswick, which
Was it
wasn't very
Keswick?
Keswick. It's a
Okay.
little town just north of Toronto, but it wasn't very diverse. Probably not very diverse. And when I say diverse, I mean culture. We're all Canadian, but we all have different culture. And so Keswick was pretty Canadian. So when I went and worked at the shelter, I got exposed to all these different cultures, religions, beliefs, traditions, and
Yeah.
I love culture. I think it's just so interesting, people and how we
Yes.
how we came to be who we are today. And so I'm really grateful for my experience at the shelter. It really, you can't help but grow up quickly, especially when sometimes these youth were sometimes older than me at the time. Makes you really grateful in life when you hear some of these stories and you're like, well, my life just ain't that bad now, is it? Right? Like
For
my
real.
situation might just be not very nice, but life just ain't that bad, So
Yes.
it makes you very grateful and humble. And so I'm very grateful for all those early on experiences, although that's not what I'm doing today. Again, everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
Without that, I wouldn't be as passionate as I am today about wanting change and growth for people. And so I'm grateful for that. And during that time, because it wasn't a very lucrative career choice, it was a job that you pick because you want to. But unfortunately, continuing that path, I would have ended up living at the shelter with them. As a single person here in the GTA, it's costly to live by yourself and hard to do so on minimum wage. So during my entire time working at the shelter, and during the schooling portion of it, I was working at Payday Loans, which I don't know if you have them in the States, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was working at a place called Cash Money. And so it supported me for a decade, the payday loan industry, because it was one of those jobs that I always maintained while I was, doing my child and youth work kind of stuff. And it gave me, again, everything happens for a reason. Working at Payday Loans, you see, again, so many different walks of life, and you see so many different people struggling for different reasons, for financial reasons. It teaches you a few things about what you want to do and don't want to do financially. And so at my time through at Payday Loans, I started as just, a CSR. It was just a job, and then I progressed to assistant. I transferred to a different company called Pay Today, and they hired me as assistant manager, and I progressed to branch manager, and then to a head office position as a training coordinator and auditor. But it still didn't pay enough for me to survive. Here I'm, doing all this advancement after a decade of work, and I'm just trying to fight for those 50-cent raises, the 3% raises. And so after a decade and only making $40,000 a year, I was going into debt slowly. And so that's where I like to say I was starting to look for a job that I could thrive off of, not just survive. I wanted to have wants in life. And so my best friend, Matt, he purchased a home, and he said the very next day, it happened to have two kitchens, so it wasn't such a drastic decision, but he wanted to rip out one of the kitchens. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, you just bought it yesterday. You just got the keys. And sure enough, nope, we're doing it. So we ripped out all the cabinets, and we started, doing renovations in the kitchen. We worked on the basement, and I did a little bit of framing and electrical and drywalling and mudding, and a little bit of a variety, enough to realize that I enjoyed this, and I got a sense of pride and accomplishment when I did something that I didn't realize that, I didn't think I could do, and my friend Matt, he's not a tradesperson, and so all of this was trial and error, and you can definitely see, you can see our progression through the house. We got better.
We got better.
Definitely inspired me to look for something else and not be stuck in this kind of job that I didn't like at Payday Loans, where I was just fighting for that 3% raise. And at $40,000, that's not a lot. You know what I mean? It's really not. And so I found a pre-apprenticeship program here in Hamilton, through the YWCA Hamilton. And I actually did two pre-apprenticeship programs. The first one was a general machinist program. I didn't know what a machinist was at all before I started it, and very much enjoyed it. I liked the job. I would have continued doing it should there have been, success through employment,
Right.
So I got the job. I had a co-op, after the pre-apprenticeship program. I didn't get hired, not due to my own merits, but because of they just didn't have resources for me at the time to take on a new hire. And so they had to let me go. And I started a job search at that time. And after months and months of no success from job searching for a machinist job, the electrical pre-apprenticeship program was released. It was a new program, and I begged and pleaded to be able to participate, and then they allowed me to. So I completed the program. I reached out to the IBEW here in Hamilton, Local 105. They were so grateful to take me on as a new apprentice.
Nice.
And so now as of next week, I only have like 12 more hours to go until I'm a second-year apprentice.
Woohoo!
Very exciting because it does include a raise.
Yeah.
So I will be very shortly a second-year apprentice next week. I'm just working on a hotel in Hamilton. We've got a great crew. It's a small crew that I'm working on, but a great foreman, Shane, and a great journeyman, Todd, and a couple of apprentices, Tyler and Aaron, and they are so amazing. They always include me in the process, and the learning part of it. I think there's some people that don't want to deal with new people, and maybe don't even want to deal with a girl. Never treated me that way. And so I'm really grateful for my little team and all the different people that have helped me along the way. Sure. And that's brought me to where I am today. Again, yes. Everything happens for a reason. And without my experience with child and youth work, my business, kind of payday loan experience and my trades has brought me to where I am today. And I can't help but think I needed every part of that to be successful in what my future goals,
Yes, that's a great point, right? Because it's easy for us to get this mindset, well, I failed and I just wasted all my time. But the reality is all of our experiences add up to help us become what we're intended to be.
Right.
If we can embrace that, right?
Yeah.
Learn the lesson, reflect upon it, apply it, and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your pre-apprenticeships. It sounds like you were super tenacious, like you were going to get it no matter what. Where does that come from?
Someone said a common phrase is the best kind of revenge is success. And as much as I'm a very positive person, I obviously have my own struggles in life. Sure. I can't say that they were, again, worked at the shelter. They weren't tough. They, in the grand scheme of things, they were little landmines, but enough to give me a motivation to want to be successful. And be successful for me means like make a difference and help people and be proud of myself for, like here in Canada, I've had the opportunity the last few months to, meet different people like Minister of Labor and Doug Ford. And I'm really grateful for those opportunities. And it makes me feel special that somehow my voice is, it means something. And so that's what gives me my kind of drive and motivation is just to be successful for myself.
Yep. But it sounds like not just for yourself. Your definition of success sounds like contribution and helping and influencing. It's not just acquiring shiny things.
Right.
You're giving back, and that just kind of pays itself back, right? It's a perpetual thing from my perspective anyway, or my experience.
Fraction, be grateful, and things will come to you. And so I've been saying things come to me easily and freely, and I can't help but notice that I've gotten those pre-apprenticeship programs that come with, free tools to help you be successful, free education to help you be successful. So I try to live in as much a positive kind of light as I can.
Yeah. So what was apprenticeship like? I went through a 4-year apprenticeship here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm a plumber by trade, so I'm wondering how similar the apprenticeship programs are. So what can you describe the electrical apprenticeship your first year?
What I did was a pre-apprenticeship program, so that's completely separate. So I'll talk about the actual process. It's the traditional process. So I'm a little different, I suppose. The traditional process is you find an employer here in Canada that wants to sponsor you as an electrical apprentice, and the best way to do that, I really think, is just getting in with them with the company, even if it's just a general labor kind of position. Let them see your eagerness and your drive. And, they're always looking for new candidates, and they like to hire within. So, sometimes just taking that entry-level job is what needs to happen, but finding a company that wants to sponsor you. From there, you start your apprenticeship. For electrical, every trade here in Canada is slightly different. For my electrical 309A, I need 9,000 hours of work on the tools. So with an employer being paid, doing all that kind of stuff, 9,000 hours normally, if you're consistently working, works out to about 5 years of work. As an electrical apprentice, some are less hours. We need 9,000. And then throughout those 5 years, what will happen is you'll get letters from the ministry here in Ontario, and they will request for your attendance at school. So there's 3 levels of schooling that you need to take to become an electrical 309 maintenance and construction or journeyman here in Canada. There's basic, intermediate, and advanced. And upon the 3 levels of completion, along with your 9,000 hours of work, little test, your certificate of qualification, and then you'll be a licensed journeyman here in Canada. Some of them are Red Seal trades that allows you to go all throughout Canada to work. But that's how the traditional electrical apprenticeship works.
Okay.
What I did was a pre-apprenticeship program. I really dislike the word pre-apprenticeship.
Yeah.
What I'm realizing is it's a very fluffy word to describe many different things. So one of my colleagues at work did a pre-apprenticeship, and it was simply the year he spent on the job before he got signed as an electrical apprentice. That's just okay. So that was before your apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship.
Right.
Some people took some fluffy entry courses where it's, they do 1 week of carpentry, 1 week electrical, 1 of plumbing. They call it a pre-apprenticeship. So you get a flavoring, a taste to see what you might like. They call it pre-apprenticeship. What mine was those 3 levels of schooling that you're required to take throughout your 9,000 hours. Mine was the first level, basic level 1. You call it a pre-apprenticeship, and the contractors don't take you seriously. They're like, oh, you're pre-apprenticeship. It's my basic level. Oh, trust me, they've had a lot of, kickback on these programs. And so it's my basic level 1, along with a placement opportunity so that you actually get some hands-on experience here on the tools. And then your resume, you have the schooling and some work experience to go along with that, so that when you do have to apply, or, in the future, your resume is more, you have both experience with schooling and hands-on. And so that's what the pre-apprenticeship program was. I know the Minister of Labor here just recently, a couple days ago, released a lot of funding. I'm not really sure, millions of dollars funding for the skilled trades to help fund these different kinds of programs to help people get into the trades. And so hopefully there'll be more programs like mine that I completed, but hopefully a better understanding of what those programs are too.
And when you took these classes, was it during the day? Was it in the evening?
It was a full-time program, so it did take, it was committed, you had to commit. A lot of it was a female program, so it was catered towards women. And a lot of our women, different ages, different walks of life. Some were mothers, some like myself were not. Some were old, some were young, every different walk of life. And so we all have different challenges. Obviously, for those with children, that's a different, daycare and all that kind of stuff just makes it so much harder. Trying to support yourself, because it wasn't a paid program, although they did provide all of the equipment and schooling and stuff like that. You still had to provide your housing and your transportation expenses. So there was obviously different struggles for all of us. But the pre-apprenticeship program was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You're in school at Mohawk College here in Hamilton, and you're doing both. You're doing code classes, prints classes, electronics.
Wow.
Some hands-on for, we actually would go to the shop. So we would actually practice putting in different circuits. It might be a 3-way or a 4-way, or we did a range and a dryer receptacle, baseboard heating. So we practice all these different skills as well. Again, you want it to make us tangible, and attractive to employers.
Yeah, that sounds like some Hell, if back when I was hiring plumber apprentices, I would have jumped all over it. Like, you got that, you're teaching them that, bring them over here, send them to
Yeah.
me. There's a small volume of people coming into the trade. I heard on one of your podcasts with Josh,
Yeah.
y'all were discussing that, how there's not a lot of people going on, coming into the trades. I know here in the States, for sure, right? I get to travel the country a little bit in the work that I do now. And everywhere I go, every job, it's like, we'll sell a job. Yay, we got this project. Then it's like, oh, how are we going to do it? Now we need people to do it, you know?
I find one of the biggest struggles here for me, because I was somebody looking for a job, was contractors just don't want to take on those really new hires. And I totally understand the contract with my business, previous business experience. I totally understand not wanting to take on new hires and the expense and all the headaches that necessarily come with us. But in order for your future, to be successful, you need to start, training in these new people and stop putting out applications for third, fourth, fifth, apprentices. Right. And maybe you might have some interest. Stop telling me there's nobody available for jobs, because I know based on my LinkedIn, people are always asking me, how do I get a job? How do I get a job? Yep. And so my real question is statistics. I don't remember where I saw the charts and the stuff, but I remember looking at statistics that talked about how many people registered and then how many actually completed their full 5 years to become journeyman. And the dropout rate is significant. So why isn't anybody taking a look at the retention? We're only talking about how do we get them, but once you get them, how do you keep them?
Yes.
Because you're going to offer them a minimum wage job as a first year employee. You're not paid great. Right. Nowadays, minimum wage in Canada is really creeping up to, the starting rate of an electrical apprentice. If you're not going to pay them great, and then you're going to treat them like crap, because culture on construction site is still old school mentality a lot of the time, and you're going to yell at them, and then you're going to ask them to go and put their life in safety risks. You're going to treat them like shit. They're going to walk away and go work at Tim Hortons, where they'll get the same pay, and all they have to do is put on a smile. Here's your coffee for the day, and so we need to start taking a look at the retention of employees, the leadership amongst our construction site. I have different experiences on my construction site with different foremen. One's really supportive. Shane's amazing. I don't necessarily have that support from other people on my site. There's been a couple of times where they won't transfer me somewhere because the boy over there, who's a leader, can't play with girls. Is that my problem or their problem?
Right. Exactly.
Why is it now becoming my problem? Why is that person in a leadership position if he can't play nice with everybody in the sandbox? So there's a real big culture change that needs to take place. And we need to take a look at the retention of employees. Why aren't we keeping them? Not just how do we get them interested? Because that's the same mentality that the colleges are taking. How do we get them to sign up? But how many actually drop out of college?
It's huge.
So, who cares if we can get them interested? Because if we, especially with millennials, I'm just on the cusp of a millennial, but the younger generation, they're different. We're all different breeds throughout generations. And, I've been raised in a little bit more of an environment of, sensitivity, and, you can't talk to people like that, especially me in business. That's your young people. They're not going to take being yelled at. They'll just go home. They'll say, Mommy, this is how I'm being treated. And they'll be like, oh, honey, you can't do that. And they'll go find a new job. Right. So you have to look at your clientele and take a look at the retention as well, because it's not just a lack of interest.
Absolutely. You use the word sensitivity. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging, because there's a lot of people that may hear this podcast and know, like, Jesse, that's not the way you used to behave. Because I was one of those jerks, right? Where it was like people would call in and say, hey, I'm sorry I'm running late. And I'm like, don't be sorry, be on time.
Right.
And hang up, right? It's not, I think and I'm saying that generally in our industry, we'll call it sensitivity, but it's really respect.
And understanding.
Right? Like it's
when did it not be okay to be human?
Exactly.
When did becoming human become a problem? And so everybody's late once in a while. Everybody has doctor's appointments. Everybody has, And so, a sensitivity wouldn't be used necessarily in the business world.
Right.
It would be understanding or mental health days. Like everybody has bad days.
Yes.
And so it's a respect and understanding that just you're human. And
Yes.
today you're having a human day. And
I
oops,
love that.
it's true. And I think a lot of people these days, and again, you always have to be careful about what you say, but because it's around forever, but I find a lot of people these days, are very sensitive to different things. Journeyman's one of those things. I'm going to work very hard for the next 5 years to play with the boys. If you call me a journeywoman, at the end of it, I'm going to be very upset because I'm one of them. I'm not anything different. And to me, if you take a look at the 3 words that describe women, female, woman, and human, all of those words have the word man or male in them. Why am I choosing not to identify with journeyman when man is in my own word? I'm humankind, right? Yep. And so to me, journeyman is a status. It's not a gender. It's my choice, but I don't need to put that on other people. And so, today's a very different. Today, you have to be very careful what you say, and I totally understand. You need to be, I'm coming from a previous background in psychology, and you totally have to be respectful as best as you can. Yes. But at the end of the day, why are we forgetting that we are human at the core? And so take accountability. Don't crucify people for their actions. Remind them that there needs to be, there's areas for growth and areas for improvement. But it's not something to destroy someone's life over, because we are human beings. We are made to make mistakes. That's how we grow and learn, So when did failure become an issue? Failing's not an issue. It's an area of opportunity for you to learn and grow.
Yes. Now, are you aware of any, for the foremen and superintendents that you've been able to interact with, are you aware of any leadership development that they have access to?
No. I'm not. And I just, again, I think it's about the culture. You have these companies like Google and these big companies that are about developing and supporting their staff and growth. And I think it's very different when it comes to construction. And I feel for contractors. This is where I do feel for contractors that why would you invest money in somebody when you know that job is going to be done in 2 months and they're going to go work for your competitor? So because of the nature of our business and because there's always these short-term little contracts, there's often not that drive to encourage people to invest in growth.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's a reality, right?
It's the reality. And I don't know how to change that. How do you encourage, you have to encourage, everybody to play nice in the sandbox. Again, like I'm training this person, eventually they will come back to me, but in the meantime, I have to respect and understand that they might go somewhere else because I don't have work for them, but it's going to pay me forward in the future because they're going to do the same. There needs to be that mentality and that culture change. And I don't know how to do that.
I will say to help, because you obviously are vigilant about the environment that you expect. And that is commendable. So it's motivating for me to listen to you. But I've worked for 2 companies now in construction. One was a mechanical contractor. Now I work for a general contractor. Both companies invest heavily in developing their people, and the buzzword is soft skills, right?
Right.
Those power skills, especially where I came from. I was there for 17 years. And boy, did we have all kinds of training on servant leadership and crucial conversations, essential conversations, conflict mitigation, all of that.
Yeah. My previous employer, Pay Today, was like that. And that's why, to me, I'm still adjusting. It's taking me some time to really, there's a bit of a shock and awe with the difference. It's a different spectrum, just such difference. Because it used to be so much, so much pressure was put on the growth and development of their people. Yep. And so it's definitely taken some time to adjust. And yeah, it's not an easy avenue. And again, I go back to the contractors, and it might be different. I only have a year of experience, and so my experience is very biased based on what I know. And I'm a unionized worker, so they typically, they go to a job ends, move on to the next job. Would it be different with a smaller contractor who is hiring and wanting to groom and train and develop their staff to be journeymen? I would hope so.
Yep.
But because of the work that I do, that's not, that it's unfortunate. Contractors, you come to an end and you go to the next site. So it's hard to really say if it's across the board here.
Right.
But it's definitely it's not something I don't see much development and for leadership and growth and
right.
Yeah, and that's something that really comes from the top.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not like, I sit here and it's like, well, their boss. Well, if their boss is their boss, it keeps going. If the top person is encouraging growth and development and trickling it downwards, then how does that person know? Again, it's just probably something that's never taken place in some companies. So why would they change anything? It's hard to assume any company or anything is one way or the other,
Oh yeah, it's difficult, but it's out there, right? It's just finding the right place and not just finding the right place, but doing exactly what you're doing. Toughen it out, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to put your head down and do the damn work.
Right.
And better days are coming, right?
As much as I have the experience and I do demand a certain level of, or I expect I don't demand it. I expect a certain level from the people around me. And in turn, I expect for myself to give that mutual respect. Yes. I don't demand it because I think it's really important to know your audience. I'm out to be successful in the trades, and you need to know who you're talking to. You need to know, kind of their characteristics, how they received by them, and some people I know just can't change.
Sure.
That's when I need to realize that I need to learn how to cope with this myself, because maybe putting it out there could jeopardize maybe my future, in the trades and whatnot. I do understand that I'm still one female in a group of men, and I'm still very aware of that. Yes. So you have to be respectful of the environment and the people in it. So knowing your audience is key.
Absolutely. Hearing your story, I just envision like a snowplow that just keeps going no matter what. And in a positive sense, you just keep pushing through it and contributing along the way. And so you mentioned LinkedIn earlier, and it's kind of how I found you. I saw a post, something you posted about kick-ass careers, and I'm like, the language caught my attention. Like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, whoa, this is about trades, and this young woman is on fire. Like, this is really interesting. So what's up with kick-ass careers?
We talked briefly about, women in my life that have been motivating and impactful and changed my life. And along the pre-apprenticeship program through the YWCA, I met this amazing woman, Jamie McMillan. She is the founder of Kick-Ass Careers, and tradeswoman herself, iron worker and boilermaker. I think started in 2002. So she's been doing it for a long time. And she's got those real life experiences. And so she came to speak to our class of women. It provided me that motivation that, you kind of needed just to keep going, because, you hear there's women in the trades, but you don't always see them.
You don't see them. Yes.
So It was nice to see one. And so I met Jamie through the program. From there, our relationship, has just developed. And again, there's not many of us, but the few of us that are in the trades are quite connected, and there's lots of different organizations and groups that support women and all across North America. And Kick-Ass Careers isn't necessarily, there's a lot of women in our organization, but there are men as well. Excuse me, we're not just a for women organization. We're most certainly just about advocating for any trade and the skilled trades, and for youth and young and old, doesn't matter. Just trying to get the word out there. And so, I me and Jamie's paths crossed again. And since then, since about the beginning of the year, I've really, been working with Kick-Ass Careers to try to just kind of be more of a voice and more of an advocate. And COVID's given me a little bit of free time here and there to do those things. And so, just to be a voice and an advocate and let them know again that, there are people out there, there are other options. And so Jamie spends a lot of her time here in Ontario visiting the high schools. Now she's doing virtual meetings, virtual presentations, so that, she just shares her story with the youth and lets them know, why she picked the trades. And, we all of us ambassadors at Kick-Ass Careers have different, stories and different reasons to why we joined the trades. And for me, it was I wanted a job that I enjoyed. I was, only 30 years of age, and I realized I had more years in front of me of work than I put behind me. And I thought it's not too late. And I switched. For Jamie, she, school, the typical avenue of trades and stuff, of university and college just wasn't for her. And so, that was her journey and her avenue. And we all have different kind of reasons as to why we picked it. And so we just try to share that with youth and let them know there are alternatives than just your typical university college path. It pays to go to school here in Canada. Often your employer pays for your education portion at the colleges. And while you're in the school portion, which is only normally, a 10-week period, 8-week period, you're receiving funding from the government. When you do a skilled trade, typically your employer will pay for your education portion of it. And then, while you're in school full time, you're not working, the government comes in and you can get unemployment insurance. You get paid to go to school to become a tradesperson here in Canada, compared to the other avenue with college and university. And so it definitely, like I say, it pays to go to school. And that's, what we're just trying to do is let young people know there are other options.
Oh my God, that's beautiful work. I'm jealous that you get to do that. That's a dream. That's amazing.
Working on it's new to a lot of us are ambassadors because we're a lot of us are new to the trades. A lot of us were inspired by Jamie. Originally what got us kind of going in the trades was her and her talking. And so now we just, we want to do that for others. We want to be that inspiration and, wisdom if they don't maybe they have questions or they just don't know how to do things. We want to do that for others.
So what would be an amazing outcome of your service to Kick-Ass Careers?
I feel like my life has really come full circle. Again, with the whole child and youth work, it gives me the passion to the drive to do the ambassador thing. The business side of with the payday loans aspect, a lot of tradespeople have only spent the years doing trades like Jamie. And so I have now some business experience that I can hopefully help kind of expand and develop Kick-Ass Career into a little bit more, national wide and do that kind of back work kind of stuff. I'm really glad that it's kind of really come full circle for me because a couple of our ambassadors are young and by age. And I say to them all the time, it doesn't, when I talk about maturity, I think maturity and experience are two different things.
Yes.
I think you can be young and mature. I think you can be very young and mature. And I think you can even be very young and have gone through more experiences than I have. And if you have, I feel for you because that should not be what your child is about, is about developing, growing. So maturity and experience are two different things. And so for the young people out there that are just starting anew and they're, only 20 years of age, that extra decade of just experiences that I have provided for learning opportunities. And trust me, I think some of these girls and boys are more mature than me. I can be very immature at times, but I just would love to share my experiences with you. And it's almost like a parent. Like a parent doesn't want you to go down the same path that they did. And so I'm sitting here saying, okay, let me tell you my experiences. You make the decision, but let me tell you when I tried that and how it worked. It might work for you, but let me just tell you some of this kind of little, struggles that I had along the way so I can help mold you and, just help you, So I'm really glad to just kind of be that person who's got just an array of experience, again, to make me this kind of full package thing to help mentor my ambassadors as well as other young people, and be a little bit of business backbone. And so Jamie keeps telling me that I'm like kick-ass career as bit like manager, but I'm still struggling to take on that term because I just haven't had the time to really do anything yet. But I would love to kind of be able to really make this, a great enterprise and be able to share our stories and encourage thousands and however many we can.
Yes. Well, I look forward to seeing that happen. So we talked, you're 12 hours away from being a second-year apprentice.
Very excited.
Oh, you should be. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
What are some of the fun, cool things about the work that you've been doing with the trades?
I really do love the learning part of the trades. For me, I've always really loved puzzles. I've really loved sewing. I've loved taking something and making something, seeing the end product. And so when you can see the work in front of you, it really gives you a sense of pride and success. And so those kind of feelings are you can't really compare. When it comes to cool things, like, I don't know, I'm starting to love, I see new tools on the site and I just want to try them. And, like my journeyman and foreman will say like, well, we're glad you're excited about this. And I'm like, I've never seen it before. They're like, okay,
Settle down.
I still have, exactly. I'm like, but it's just so new. Right. So every day is different. Sometimes it can be repetitive. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you get stuck doing the same job. I'm working in a hotel right now. Well, there's 25 suites of floor, and there's how many levels, right? So we're going to have some repetitive tasks. But I go back to something about confidence, and confidence is built by competence. So you can understand by the time I'm done all those suites, I'm going to feel really confident about, what I'm doing. And that in itself, is amazing to go home every day feeling like that. So I guess it's just like the growth that I've seen in myself, and it's amazing to feel proud every day going home,
Oh, yes. I miss, that's one thing I definitely miss is at the end of the day, being able to look at what I did.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore. It's all invisible now. There's something special about that. I definitely miss it.
And it's not that it's invisible. I think it's just not as tangible.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like there's something about it when you can touch it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You still get, when you reach young people and once in a while you get those messages that just confirm that you're, on the right path, and it's words of encouragement. Those are your tangible moments now,
Yep.
They're just less.
Yes.
And so every day, trades provide you that opportunity for learning, which just is always stretching your brain. Like, what's school about? Just making sure you're still learning and still doing. I really am very grateful for kind of how my life's unfolded and the trades and what it's given me personally as a person.
Yes. Well, you've been very responsible with all of your gifts and all of the lessons that you've learned, because you keep kind of collecting them and applying them forward. That's
right.
That's amazing. It's impressive. What about the physicality of the work? Being exposed to the elements, carrying stuff, getting dirty. What's that like?
Well, first thing I'll cover is dirty, because I feel like everybody thinks the trades is a dirty job. And I'm like, okay, sure. But I've never had to wipe a bum at work. So shout out to all you nurses out there who are having to do that. To me is dirty work.
Sure.
Right?
That's a good point.
Right? That as a child and youth worker, we had intentional poopers in the bathroom. Someone pick up that poop. So when you talk about dirty, I think it's just a definition. My job is like a gardener. The amount of dirt I'm going to get on me is construction dirt, so sure, I definitely get dirty. I definitely need to go home and have a shower, get different, maybe chemical things off of me, but I would not say it's any more dirty than other people's jobs.
Nice.
Right? But the physical aspect, there's two kind of parts here. There's like I'm the girl part, and there's sometimes that things that I look at and I'm I'm intimidated at it first, and I have to think a little harder on how I'm going to get it done. Sometimes there's the men on site that just give you a task just to see you struggle with it.
Yes,
There
I do
are
know
people
that.
still there. And so that's a little frustrating. But when I do accomplish something, the amount of success that I do feel for myself, because again, at the beginning, I thought I can do this, and there's always a way to get it done. It just sometimes might take me a little longer. And so that pride that I get when I finish it, I've talked about it before, or I talk about the going to work every day and doing physical activity. I'm getting paid to go to the gym every day. I'm paying a gym to go run on a treadmill. I do not need to do that anymore because we have enough stairs for that.
Yeah.
There's definitely different physical things that I struggle with, but I'm busy. I'm building physical strength, and that's a different again sense of pride, and realizing that I could do a push up. Oh wow, is that for me lifting all those drills at work? I don't know, but it's a nice feeling, right? So.
Oh, that's so good. You put dirty work in perspective like I've never had it put before.
It's true.
Very well said. My goodness.
Even teachers, is when I was a child and youth worker and I worked at the school board for a period of time, they're changing bums,
Yep.
and bless their hearts, because they're off, like they're not their own children,
Right.
they're extending themselves to other people, and those people are being vulnerable with them. It's we don't have to deal with that on the trades,
Mm.
and I'm very grateful for those people, because truthfully, one day we'll all be there.
Yep.
One day I'm going to be at the hospital and I'm going to be in a very vulnerable position. And those nurses are amazing for just dealing with that every single day. And there's tons of other dirty jobs out there. That's just the one that I normally go to, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
It's a good one.
it's very in your face. It's
Oh
very
yeah.
true, you know.
Yeah.
So, and maybe hopefully makes you a little bit more grateful for your job, like your job.
Yeah.
Most people's jobs are pretty nice,
Oh yeah.
and there's always something at your job that you're not going to like. That's for sure. And so you definitely have to weigh the pros and cons.
Yes. 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 The realities of it, right?
Mm.
So you've had lessons. It seems like you capture them pretty quickly. Maybe usually, probably in retrospect. But given you're on the cusp of completing your first year of apprenticeship, what are some big lessons that you're gonna take away and apply forward?
Biggest lessons. I don't know if I've had any huge lessons. I guess when I think about myself, I
Mm-hmm.
still question every day whether or not I can do this. And I've said it before, it's not about my capabilities, but can I deal with the environment? Can I deal with the people?
Mm,
Because it's not always easy.
sure.
Um, I question every day. And so I guess the biggest lesson is that like a year's passed. And so I reflect on, a year ago, Shannon, who thought, can I do this? And now a year's passed. I can do this.
Mm,
And even when I question myself, I have to remind myself of all of my last few years of experiences that have gotten me to where I am today. And persistence and dedication has has gotten me here. And a lot of times you get turned down in life.
mm,
A lot of times people say no, and that can be really discouraging. And there was probably times in the last 2 years that I probably felt like so discouraged, but I just kept going. And so I sit here almost a second year and very grateful that I continued doing this.
mm.
Um, and in a year or two from now, I'll sit back and reflect on this moment and think, man, I just didn't think I'd become a fourth year or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And anybody can do it if you put your mind to something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So what about the future, Shannon? How are you going to change the world?
Change the world. I don't know if I hope to change the world, but just to be the biggest impact I can to the people that I come across. With kick-ass careers, it really does give me the platform the brand, to get an audience. And so I just hope that my experience is kind of like the whole parent thing again. I can share them enough with people that some people will learn and from my lessons, and some won't need some will just, they've already learned that lesson, but whatever it might be, I'm hoping that my experiences can help others. If I could encourage construction culture to change more towards a growth and development and a more friendly environment to our new hires, that would be ideal. I don't know how I could do that, but I would love to see more journey foremen like my current foreman, who is so dedicated to his staff, even though he doesn't have to be. And I can't help but think, like, we talk about burnouts and stuff like that. And so for these people who have been foremen for years and years and years and years, and maybe they were as passionate as I was when they first started. Again, I'm so realistic that I think about everything, and chances are probably they've already thought what I'm so new, you know what I mean? They've already thought about it, tried it, and found that it didn't work, and hopefully my persistence and my, drive can help me persist through those moments, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure I'm going to face moments of, and they say it to me all the time. I try to well, can't you just rationalize with him and explain to him how it's more cost effective and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, nope. But it, look at how much it makes sense. Nope. It's oh, they've been doing it for years. And it's like, what? Don't you want to save money? Nope. What? Doesn't everybody want money? I don't understand.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how to make that change, but I would love to try to encourage that kind of change. Just a more open and understanding culture. We talked about the human touch. Yep. I'd love to be more human on a construction site.
Oh, that simple, but difficult, right?
Yes.
We got a long way to go for sure. Okay, last question. Are you ready?
Yes.
What advice would you give the 15-year-old Shannon?
15-year-old Shannon tried a shop class. And I was in a new high school. It had only been open for a handful of years, and so they didn't have the funding and stuff like that to really have a well-rounded tech kind of department. I would probably say a few things. I would say go Google the job that you're interested in pursuing and see what jobs are available. How realistic is that education going to be to that job? Because there's a lot of, I don't want to say fluff. There's a lot of fluff degrees out there that, a philosophy degree. I don't know what kind of job you can get with that, but chances are there's only a couple dozen out there, but they're filling classrooms with a couple hundred. So let's be realistic. Are you that passionate about philosophy, that passionate that this is going to be forever? Just, be realistic about, even child and youth work. I would have loved, if someone said to me, you're going to need 4 jobs to maintain a life, it's minimum wage, you're going to be competing with social work, all that kind of stuff. You might not be able to sustain yourself. Maybe I would have made different decisions. But the fact is I'm very grateful for everything that's happened. And I say to you all the time, everything happens for a reason. And so I would probably tell 15-year-old Shannon to suck it up. There's going to be times that you don't like in the next 15 years, but it's okay. Life's going to be okay. Life's going to be great. I don't know. I'm very grateful for all those experiences, even though at the time I didn't know where they were going to take me. Yeah.
In the moment, it's difficult to see the purpose.
Yeah.
But it reveals itself for sure. Well, is there any question, last final thought you have?
No, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm glad that there's lots of people like you and me who are, wanting change, and hopefully, through conversations, education really makes, a difference, and conversations like this is where it starts. And so hopefully we can educate the masses about how many great things that the trades provide, and that perhaps it's time for a little bit of a culture change so that we can encourage more young people to come in, because they are the future.
Yes. So you're in charge of Canada. I'll
Sounds
take charge of the States, and we're gonna make it happen.
sounds good. That's all we can do. One day at a time. That's all
One
you
day
can
at a
do.
time. That's it.
But
Well, Shannon, this was super fun.
it was great. It was lovely chatting, and I'm so grateful. Like I get so nervous for these things, but again, it's the sometimes I get off these calls and you know things like with the Minister of Labor and stuff like that, and you have moments where you're just like so proud of myself.
Yeah, but it's hard to do that, right? I mean, you're doing amazing things, and I can imagine that it's like you're just doing it in the moment, and then later on, it's like, oh damn, I did that.
I often have these like moments of like not to say outer body because outer, but just like am I really going to work right now? Is this really what you decided to do with your life? Like, so, and it's moments like a couple weeks ago, we had a fire alarm at work, like just a test. And I forget all the time I'm the only girl on the construction site. But it was that fire alarm when everybody came to the curb. And I walked outside and I was like, oh, yes, I am the only girl of like 70 men. Like,
Oh, and then reminded, like, wow.
right. It was reminded, right? Like, so there are definitely moments that because you just live, you just exist, and you're just you just plug along, and you're like, okay, next thing in front of me, got to tackle it, and you often just you take moments to reflect back and just be like, holy crap, that's me.
Yeah. Well, you are a very accomplished woman, and
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to see how you further contribute. Well, that's the end of this episode. Thank you for being gracious and sharing your time with us. We ask that you show us some love on social media. Give us some honest, actionable feedback. Help us understand if we're headed in the right direction in providing an entertaining and insightful experience for you. You can also give us that feedback directly via email at jesse@learningsandmissteps.com. So thanks again. Be cool, and we'll talk at you next time.